Welcome back to GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Thursday, February 20th. If you were just tuning in, we just finished going over what the salary cap increase means for a lot of teams in the NFL, a massive boost to the salary cap. In this segment, we turn our attention over to one team in particular in the NFL and what a dream offseason might look like: the Carolina Panthers. But before we do that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you're on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Thursday, February 20th. But like I was saying, we are going to get into the Carolina Panthers' perfect offseason. Last season might not seem like it was a success for the Carolina Panthers, but they finished at 5-12, third place in the NFC South, obviously missing the playoff. They have a top 10 draft pick this year, and the most important thing for them, and the reason last season was a success, is because Bryce Young really started to come into his own. There were some people calling him a bust, saying he wasn't NFL ready, saying that he was a waste of a number one overall pick. CJ Stroud really blossomed in his first season. We got to see a little bit of what made Bryce Young a special talent at Alabama. That being said, this team still has a lot of work to do. They have about $20 million in cap space with the new cap increase, and they have 21 pending free agents. Now, a lot of them aren't super important. A lot of them, you can let these guys walk, but there are a couple that I think that are important. You have your kicker and your punter. Johnny Hekker, who's one of the better punters in the league, and Eddie Pinheiro, who's in the top 3 for most accurate kicker in the history of the NFL. In fact, he even took the title from Justin Tucker for a little bit earlier last season. You also have your starting center in Austin Corbett, one of the top centers on the market. He's someone that they need to re-sign. They re-signed Andy Dalton as well as their long snapper already. You also have linebacker Shaq Thompson, cornerback Michael Jackson, and 5 safeties are free agents. You probably need to sign at least one of them. You want to re-sign, in my opinion, the best one out there, in Xavier Woods. So there's a lot of guys out there that I think are important for them to re-sign, but a lot that I think they can let walk. Shaq Thompson, Mike Jackson, Xavier Woods, Austin Corbett, Johnny Hekker, and Eddie Pinheiro, very important for them to bring back. When we look at what else this team needs, obviously they need a defense. They have one real big star on defense, and it is Derrick Brown. Derrick Brown up the middle is one of the more impressive defensive players in the league. He's incredibly strong, physical, a great pass rusher, as well as a really good run defender up the middle, but he could use some help. Obviously, getting some help in the secondary would be huge. And when we're looking at the secondary market in the NFL, there's a couple names that are available. Obviously, DJ Reed, I think, is the big fish in the pond. But you also have guys like Byron Murphy, who just coming off of a really good season in Minnesota at corner. Stephon Gilmore as well, a little bit older. Rasul Douglas is available. There's plenty of corners out there for the Panthers to go out and get. You need to grab at least one of those. I think Byron Murphy is a guy that I would target if I were the Panthers. I also want to see the Panthers go out and get some pass rush. One of the most important things, and what really helps cover up a lot of secondary stuff, is the pass rush, right? If you're able to get pressure quickly, you can go and get a lot of these, and you can go and hide a lot of the issues and at depth in corners, right? As long as the quarterback is rushed, is hurried, they're more likely to make mistakes. As long as the quarterback is rushed and hurried, they're more likely to get sacked. They're more likely to make a negative play. So the pass rush is really the foundation of a defense. When they say you build in the trenches, they mean that on both sides of the ball, right? There's a couple guys out there that I think are really important for them to bring in. right? You have you have a couple options. Khalil Mack, a little bit older, but has been incredibly impressive. I don't know if he's going to want to end his career in Carolina. Matt Judon is a guy that I look at from the Falcons as a free agent that would be really interesting. I think that's someone that if the Falcons don't re-sign, would be huge for them to bring back. Another guy a little bit less on the true pass rusher side, but Jerome Baker I think is really interesting. I like what he's been able to do throughout his career. I think bringing in Jerome Baker could be big for this defense. They also have the number 8 overall pick in the NFL draft, and they could go a lot of different ways with this. They need a wide receiver, and for free agency, they could go out and try and get a wide receiver. Amari Cooper is someone that I think would be really good for them to go out and get. He's not necessarily the youngest guy, but outside of outside of Adam Thielen, you don't have a super reliable receiver. Xavier Legette really struggled this season with a lot of the important he dropped a lot of balls, right? You also have Jalen Coker, who stepped up a little bit, David Moore, who's a free agent, not really worth bringing back in, but there's a couple wide receivers out there. Chris Godwin, if they were going to try and snatch him from the Bucs, but I think getting a guy that can be a true number 1 receiver, not trying to get a number 2 or a number 3 in Amari Cooper, would be really huge for the development of Bryce Young. But getting back to the draft here, there's a couple guys that I think they would love to have. Mason Graham, the defensive tackle out of Michigan, is someone that I have been circling on the Panthers sheet for a very long time. He is the run stuffer in this draft. You pair him next to Derek Brown, that is one of the toughest interior defenses in all of the NFL. If they wanted to go up and shore out the cornerback side of the ball, go ahead and get a safety or a corner to fill out the secondary room. You can get Will Johnson, also out of Michigan, or Jody Barron out of Texas. Safety, we talked about him in our last episode, but Malachi Starks is a guy that I really like if they want to take him a little high at number 8. Maybe if T-Mac, Tetroa McMillan, is available there for them at number 8, that's the way you go, because he could be one of the better receivers in the league almost immediately, especially if he goes to the right spot. But the name I've been really circling, and the thing that I think they need to do the most, especially if they go and sign a free agent wide receiver, is go and get Mason Graham. I think he's the best interior defender in this draft, and adding him to that defense should do wonders on its own. This is a Carolina Panthers team that isn't going to go to the playoffs next season outside of potentially winning their division, right? This is a Carolina Panthers team, especially in a weak NFC South, that I think might be able to find their way in, but they're not going to go and be a Super Bowl team. What they can do is continue to develop and put Bryce Young in the best possible situation. The offense really did develop down the stretch. He kept them in a lot of these games. He kept them in games against the Eagles and the Chiefs. They were really competitive against these really good teams, these teams that made the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl, went deep into the playoffs. So this is a team that I think is pretty close to being a good NFL team. Maybe not a contending NFL team, but a team that could fight for an NFC South crown, especially when your competition is the Bucs and the Falcons. But let me know what your thoughts are. I'd love to hear them. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we turn our attention over to the MLB. Another team for us to go through as the season is right around the corner. In this episode, we turn our attention over to the Astros. The Astros, a team that's had a pseudo-dynasty for a while. A lot has changed, though, recently. We'll see if the moves they made this offseason helped or hurt them in the coming MLB season. We'll be right back. You're on GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast.